Okay guys, so today I'm going to be using different shades of purple from the Dollar Tree. This first one is called Haze, and it is the Just yarn, so it's 100% acrylic. And then the difference between the Just yarn and the Just active is this one's polyester. Well, 80% polyester and 20% acrylic, but I'm going to use them together even though they're different. So this one's royal purple. This one I've lost the label to it. And then this last one is again the 80% polyester, and I believe this one is called just purple. And did I tell you? Oh, this one's royal purple. So I don't remember what this one was called, but anyways, those are the ones I'm going to be using. Okay, and I'm going to be using a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, and my yarn is a medium 4 weight. So like every project, we're going to start with a slip knot. So the easiest way to do a slip knot is to wrap the yarn around your fingers twice on the front side, and then there's one strand in back, your tail in front, and then you're going to move that back strand forward till you have an X on your fingers. Then you'll just keep moving it forward as you open your fingers and put that back end in between, and then you can just go ahead and wiggle it off, creating a slip knot. So you can do a slip knot however you want. There's just a super easy beginner way to do it. And then after you have your slip knot, we're going to go ahead and start chaining. So to chain, you yarn over and simply pull through, yarn over, pull through. Okay, so we're going to do that 41 times. So I'll meet you when I have a chain of 41. Okay, so here's my chain of 41 after it's completed. Okay, and then I'm going to draw you a quick picture of what's going on. So we're going to have a square neck, and this will probably not be proportional at all. And then it's going to meet up in the back and the front. So we'll have 6 stitches on both of those sides, and then we want the front to be even to that. So there'll be 12, and then there'll be 12 stitches on each of those sides. And then in the corner here we'll have 1 stitch, and that's what we'll make our corner. So this is the back, this is the side, this is the front. If we add all those stitches up, it equals 40, but we've chained 41 because as we make our next row, we're going to start from the chain, or from the second chain from the hook. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've marked out that, like with, I just used safety pins, but if you wanted to use stitch markers, you could. So I've counted 6 stitches, and then in the 7th one I've put a stitch marker. I counted 6 more, and then in the 7th one I put a stitch marker. Then I counted 12, and then in the 13th one over here I've put a stitch marker, counted 6 more, in the 7th one I've put a stitch marker, and then there should be 7 stitches left. So I just marked that out. That's optional. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Okay, but now that I have that marked out, I'm going to go ahead and start my next row. So I'm going to do a half double crochet in the second chain from the hook. So this is my chain that's around the hook, which we never count. This is the one next to the hook, which would be my first chain, and then this one right here is going to be my second chain from the hook. So I'm going to go into that one. So to begin a half double crochet, I yarn over first, and then I go into that space, I yarn over again, and then I pull out, and I will have 3 loops on my hook, and then I will yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. Okay, so I'll do that one more time with you. We yarn over, we go into that space, we yarn over, come out, 3 loops on our hook, yarn over again, and then pull through all 3 of those loops. So we're just going to repeat that all the way across until we get to our stitch marker or our safety pin. Okay, so now that I'm to my safety pin, I'm going to go ahead and remove it. And then here's where I'm going to make my corner edge into that space. So I'm simply just going to do a half double crochet like I've been doing. Okay, and then I'm going to do that 2 more times into that same space. So there was 2, and here is 3. And what that does is create a corner for the neckline of our dress. Okay, now I'm just going to go back to doing half double crochets into every stitch. And then once again, once I get to that safety pin, I will do 3 stitches into it. So I will go ahead and meet you when I'm there. Okay, so I've made it to my marker. I'm going to go ahead and remove it. And then I'll do the same thing we did before, as we'll go ahead and do 3 half double crochets into that same stitch, making our corner. Oops. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and do half double crochets all the way across. So we'll do that for 12 stitches. So I'll meet you when I'm to the next corner. So I've made it once again. I'm going to go ahead and remove this safety pin or stitch marker. And then we'll go ahead and do 3 half double crochets into that same stitch. So there's 2. This will be our 3rd. Okay. And now we'll just do half double crochets again for 6 stitches until we make it to the next safety pin. So I'll meet you there again. Alright, and this is the last corner. So 3 half double crochets into this stitch again. Okay, and then you should have 6 stitches left to the end of this row. Okay, so there's our last one, and that created, as you can see, a little square, which is going to be our neckline. Okay, so now we're ready to start our next row. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to go ahead and chain 2. So 1, 2, and then I'm going to turn my work this way. Okay, so then in the next stitch, I'm going to go ahead and do just a half double crochet. And we'll do that all the way till we get to the edge. Okay, and then once we get to the corner where we had our 3 half double crochets into the same stitch, we'll go ahead and do a half double crochet into that first one. Okay, and then this is where we're going to create our armhole. So we're going to go ahead and chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and then we'll go over here and we'll find once again where our 3 half double crochets are together. So we're going to go into the center one of that one. So this is the outside one. This is going to be the center one. So we're kind of fold our work in half, if you will, and we're going to do a half double crochet into that. So we're going to yarn over and then insert our hook into that. We'll yarn over, come out. There are 3 loops on that hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 of those. Okay, and then we'll just do half double crochets across the front again until we get to the next corner. Okay, so I'll let you do that on your own and I'll meet you there. Okay, so I've made it to the corner. This is my stitch where I've done the 3 into the same stitch again. So I'm going to go ahead and go into that first one. Okay, and then also that second one. And here's where we're going to start chaining. So I'll chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Then I'm going over here and I'm finding that center space again. So there's my first one. This is my second one, which is the one I'm going to go into. I'm going to fold it in half again. I'm going to yarn over. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert my hook into there. I'll yarn over again and then I'll come out and I'll have 3 loops on my hook. Yarn over one more time and complete that stitch, okay? And then we'll just do half double crochets all the way to the end again. Okay, and there is my last stitch. So now I'm going to go ahead and find a doll and make sure it fits at this point. Okay, so this is Meredith. She is a Journey Girl doll, and she is all covered in glitter from the last project I did, which is a ballerina dress. I will link that one in this description if you're interested in doing that one. But I would not recommend using the glitter tool because it's still everywhere. Anyways, I'm just going to throw this on her real quick and make sure it fits the way I want it to. So I want it to be super snug and just fitting perfectly around her arms like so. And that's what I want. So I like how it fits. So I'm going to continue. If yours fit differently, you could go ahead and add more or less stitches at this point, but it's just a good place to check and make sure it fits. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and chain 3, and then I'm going to turn my work, okay? And now we're going to get ready to do our fan stitches or our shell stitches, whatever you want to call them. So now that I have chained 3, I'm going to go ahead and do a double crochet into the next stitch. So to do that, you yarn over, then you go into your stitch, you're going to yarn over, you'll come out, there's 3 loops on your hook, you're just going to go through 2 of them, and then you'll come out and there'll be 2 loops on your hook. You'll yarn over one more time and go through those last 2 loops. So that was a double crochet. Okay, from here I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to skip 2 stitches and go ahead and go into this. So skip 2, go into this one, and we'll do a double crochet again, creating a fan or a V-stitch or a shell stitch, whatever you want to call it. So to do that, we've double crocheted twice into the same stitch, okay? Now we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to go back into that same stitch and do 2 more double crochets. So there's 1 double crochet, and here will be our second one, okay? So that, this little stitch right here is what I am calling a fan or a shell or a V-stitch. You can call stitches whatever you want, okay? But now I'm going to go ahead and skip 2 stitches again, and it's actually going to be this first stitch on my armhole that I'm going to go in and do my next fan stitch, okay? So I'm just going to go in there and do 1 double crochet and then 2 double crochet. Okay, and then chain 1 and then go back into that same stitch with 2 more double crochets. So there's 1, this will be the last one. Okay, so now we have 2 of these fans, and we're just going to repeat this. So I'm going to skip 2 stitches again, and then this should be like the center of our armhole right here that we're going to go into. My stitches are kind of pulled tight, so it's kind of hard to get in there, but we'll go ahead and do 1 double crochet in there and then 2 double crochets in there. Okay, and then chain 1 and then go back into that same stitch, whoops, with 2 more double crochets. And I missed. Okay, and then we're going to skip 2 stitches again. So there's 1, 2. Okay, which now we'll go into, it's almost the last stitch of our armhole right here. And we'll just do that same thing. So we're making a fan stitch, so we're going in there and doing a double crochet and then going back into that same stitch and doing another double crochet and chaining 1, going back in, and then 1 more time with a double crochet. Okay, and we've created a whole bunch of little fan stitches across. So this is going to be the armhole of our dress. This is the back, and now we're just going to repeat those same fan stitches across the front. So we'll just do the same thing, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then we'll go into this stitch and do our double crochet twice, chain 1, then do 2 more double crochets into that same stitch. So you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and let you do it on your own now. Okay, and when you get to the armhole on the other side, you'll just keep on repeating the same thing. So skip 2 stitches, and then we're going to go into this one. Right, so that's 1, 2, go into this one. And go ahead and complete that fan stitch. Okay, so there it is, and then skip 2 stitches again and go into this one, but make sure you yarn over first. So Okay, and then skip 2 more. So we're going to go into this one. Skip 2 more, go into this one right here. Okay, and that completes our last fan stitch, okay? And then essentially we have 2 stitches left and then kind of where we did our chain here. So to finish that off, we're just go ahead and skip 1 stitch. And we'll go ahead and do a double crochet into that, and then where our in the top of our chain right there, we'll go ahead and do 1 more double crochet, completing this row. Okay, now that is what the top of our dress looks like so far. Okay, so now I'm going to do 1 more row in this color, and then we'll switch colors. So to start that, I'm going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to flip and turn my work, and then I'll just do a half double crochet, or sorry, excuse me, a double crochet into the very next stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and skip all these stitches and find the center of our fan stitch, which is where we did our chain. So technically this is going to be a chain space, and we'll go ahead and do a double crochet into that stitch. So we yarn over, insert into that hook, pull out a loop. You have like 3 loops there, yarn over, pull through those 2, yarn over, pull through those 2, and we'll just complete another fan stitch at the top of our last fan stitch is what we're doing. So there's 2 double crochets. Here's my chain 1, go back into the same stitch with 2 more double crochets. So this is my last double crochet. Okay, and as you can see, so we have a fan on top of a fan, so I just repeat that pattern. So go ahead and find our next space and do our next fan. Okay, so there is completed, and then you'll just keep repeating that all the way across. I'll let you do it on your own. Okay, and as you come around to the end of your work, you can just go ahead and do the same thing you did in the last round. So go into that last stitch and do a double crochet, and then find the top of that last chain we did and do a double crochet as well. Okay, and that completes that row. Now we're going to come over here. We're going to go ahead and join our work. So I'm just going to find, once again, the top of the chain, and I'm going to do a slip stitch. Okay, and here's where I'm going to change colors. So I'm going to go ahead and snip that off. So I snipped it off, and I will just simply pull through and tie it off, and then I will worry about tying that in later. So now we're ready to start with our next color. So I'm going to go ahead and do a slip knot, and then I can actually attach this wherever I want. It does not matter. So I'm going to choose to start right here. Okay, and I'm going to start by pulling through like so, and then chaining 3. So 1, 2, 3, and that's going to count as our first double crochet. Okay, and then we're just going to do fan stitches again, so we'll go into that stitch and do a double crochet, right, and then like we've been doing, chaining 1, going back in, and completing the rest of that fan stitch. And you'll just do that all the way across, except for the difference is now we're going to do it in rounds instead of rows because we've connected our work. So I will meet you when I'm here and show you how to connect it. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do a fan stitch in that space where we did the slip stitch on the previous round. So we're just gonna go in there with a double crochet and just do a fan stitch like we've been doing. So there's 1, here's 2, and I'll speed it up so we can get to it. Alright, so now that we have that finished up, we're going to go ahead and do a slip stitch into that first chain 3 we did at the top of it. So just yarn over and pull through all the way. And now we need to make our way to the top or the center of this fan stitch. So we're just going to slip stitch into the next space. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and slip stitch one more time into the center right there, and then we'll go ahead and chain 3 again. Okay, and now we're just going to do another fan stitch on top of this one like we've been doing. So we'll go ahead and do a double crochet and then chain 1, and then you could just go ahead and finish it off. Alright, so I've gone ahead and gone all the way around with 3 rows in this color, and now I'm just going to finish it off like I have done before with that slip stitch right there. And then I'm changing colors, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off and then tie off here. And then I can take my next color and I'll start with a slip knot again. And then once again, I can just start wherever I want and then just work on top of those fan stitches. So I'm going to go in here and I will start with a slip knot. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and chain 3. And again, that's going to count as our first double crochet. So then after I do that, I'm going to go in and do my second double crochet, and then I will chain 1 and then do 2 more double crochets. So you get that idea. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed up. I've done 4 rows in this color, and then I've slip stitched and tied it off, and now I'm ready to move on to my next color. Same thing, start wherever you want, do a slip stitch, chain 3, begin your fan stitches. I'm going to do 4 rows in this color. So here I'm done. I'm going to end with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to start a fan stitch for our final row. So I don't need to slip stitch. I'm just going to start by doing a double crochet into that space, and I'm going to do it 4 times. And then once I'm done, I'm going to find the space in between my fan stitches and simply do a slip stitch there, and then I'm just going to repeat that. So do 4 double crochets into that chain space of your fan, and then slip stitch once you're done, and we'll work that all the way around. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish off again with just a slip stitch where I started, and then I can cut off my end piece and then tie it off Then I'm going to go ahead and take a needle and weave in my ends. So I'm just going to go back and forth. I'm kind of splitting the yarn as I go in between the yarn strands so it doesn't come apart. So I'll go one direction and then I can go another direction and just work my way around wherever so it doesn't come undone. And then this is optional, but I like to take some fray check after I've cut it off, and then just to make sure it doesn't come undone. And I have my dress wrong side out right now, and then I'll do the same with the rest of my tails. For each layer I'll weave in my ends, and then to finish off my dress I'm going to go back to my original color that I started with, which is this light purple, and I'm going to do an edge around the top. So to start off, I did a slip knot on my crochet hook, and now I've slip stitched to start on the back here, and now I'm just going to do a single crochets all the way up, and I have my tail end that I started with this yarn. I'm working it in as I go, so I don't have to work it in later. And then it's kind of, we don't really have even stitches on this part of the back, so you kind of just guess wherever and then go ahead and do just a single crochet all the way up the back. And then my tail end is kind of long and I don't want it to go where my buttonhole is, so I'll move that to the side. I think I'm going to go ahead and do one more stitch, and then I'll do my buttonhole because I want to be closer to the top. But anyway, I'll move it to the side now, out of the way, and then I'll weave it in later. So here I'm ready to put my buttonhole. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 2. So there's 1 and here's 2. Okay, and you can chain however many depending on how big your button is. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back to single crochets at the very top here. And then to make this corner nice and sharp, I'm going to do another single crochet into that same stitch. Okay, and then I'll just work my way across the top with single crochets until I get to where my sleeve is right here, and where we did those half double crochets, 3 of them into one stitch. I'm going to go ahead and skip that stitch, and that will create a nice and square look on my dress for. Okay, and then I'm also going to do that on each corner spot. So here again where I have those 3 half double crochets, I'm going to skip that stitch so that my neckline is nice and square, and then I'll do that on the other side as well where my sleeves are. So I'll just single crochet across the front, and then once I get to that corner I'll skip one and then go to the sleeve and then single crochets again all the way until I'm ready to go down the back. And then to make this spot square again, I will do 2 single crochets into the same stitch on the corner here, making it nice and sharp, and then I'll just do single crochets down the back as well. And you can kind of just guess wherever the stitches go, because like I said, on this side and the other side it's kind of hard to figure out. And then I'm gonna finish off by going through all the layers of the span stitch, and I'm going to do a slip stitch. It's kind of tricky to get through all of them, but I think it's going to finish it off and make it look really nice. So here is my slip stitch, and then I am pretty much done. I'm just going to cut it off and tie it in, and then I'll weave in my ends like I've done before. So that one that I started with and this one.
And once again, I'll put a dab of fray check, make sure it's on the inside of the dress though, and then we can cut it off. And I'm going to use yarn to sew on my button. If you want to use thread instead of yarn, you can. My button just happens to be big enough that yarn fits through it and it matches in color, so that's what I'm going to do. I just tied a knot at the end of it, and then I've started from the back and pulled through. And then I'm going to go through the front and towards the back. And at this point, before I get too excited about sewing it all the way on, I'm just going to check and make sure that it actually works and fits. Okay, I think that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up. I'm just going to take my yarn and go under that knot and then tie it in a knot, and then I'm going to weave back and forth again, and then I can cut off those strands of yarn. So this is what the finished dress looks like, all complete. Thanks for watching, guys.